Hello folks, and welcome to what unfortunately is probably going to be an exceedingly long and boring video. So whatever happens, don't watch this. It's also unfortunately not a video I wanted to make today because it's kind of raining and dull today, and I planned to be working on old Elon, the Model 3 drive unit here, and showing you my nice wiring harness that I'd made up for him, and marveling at the amount of canned messages that he seems to need to send out on two buses. But that, unfortunately, is going to have to wait until tomorrow. Today, we're going to be talking about the ZombieVerter VCU. And yeah, so two things going on here, really. The first is, I suppose it is about time that I updated the kind of showing where the various components that we have to fit to it are. That's definitely overdue. One of the reasons I didn't do that was because it was a movable feast, the whole chip shortage thing and all this, and you know, one batch of boards would have a certain component that wouldn't be fitted, and I'd have to go source that, and then the very next batch of boards would have that component but not another one, and so forth. So the best I can do with this first off today will be just showing you what the state of play is. Today is, I think, the 1st of February 2023. So the caveat for anything that we show you on the board today will be that it could be changed tomorrow. Anyway, second part of the video then is genuinely something I don't want to have to do. So some of you may be aware that late last year I decided to take a step back from active participation in the Open Inverter Forum. There's no fallouts, there's no animosity, you know, everyone's still good. Johannes and I are still getting on fine. It's just that I found in my own, I guess, mental arithmetic that I was really suffering from burnout in terms of the amount of things I would have to answer and correct and deal with on there. It probably, to a third party or third person perspective, probably didn't really look like all that much. But I guess everything's subjective. So for me, I made the decision just to take a step back. I don't know how long that's going to be for, etc., but decided to do that. Now, as some of you know, I've also been working on a new project, which is the CanLogger 6000. And that's been my kind of winter project at the bench because it's mostly a software and a little bit of PCB design and so on. So I've been taking some feedback from what folks recommended to me on the first video that I did there, and I've been trying to work on some of those ideas. And there's a gentleman that has been posting on the Open Inverter Forum that's been doing some work with the STM32F4, which is what I'm learning the hard way recently. So I yesterday popped onto the forum and just was kind of looking around some of the stuff that he'd been doing there, and I hadn't been on there for a while. So of course I made the mistake. You know what's going to happen. I started reading threads, and since I left the forum, there's been a few changes on there, and there's a couple of new sections, and one of them is for vehicle control units, or VCUs, or for, to use a simple, I guess, description, just a black box that makes the car move, right? And there was a thread on there relating to the ZombieVerter VCU, which is my baby, as it were, and relating to how it worked, or for that matter didn't work, with various drivetrains, particularly the Lexus GS450H. Unfortunately, I read that thread, and I know I shouldn't have, and I ended up not sleeping very well last night because of that. I know, like, stupid, right? here I am. And unfortunately, there's a lot of things in there that are factually incorrect. So what I want to try to do in the second part of today's video is, I'm not going to sit here talking and saying, oh, well, he said, she said, someone on the internet is wrong. What we'll do is we have two cars here driving with the ZombieVerter VCU in it, with the latest firmware in them. And we will show you the functionalities and explain anything that needs to be explained around some of those questions and statements that arose in that thread. I'm not naming names or anything, I don't care. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, but when things are incorrect, relating to something that I'm, very heavily involved with, I want to just correct that and set the record straight. So, enough about me talking here. We'll jump into the first part. I'll just go through some of the hardware here on the bench for you. And off camera then, I'm going to get my book and I'm going to just go through that thread on the forum and just make a few bullet points so that I don't miss anything. So let's get on the bench. Okay, so just to repeat the caveat here that this is early February 2023. So what I'm showing you here may vary depending on what devices are fitted to the board by the PCB maker and what devices are included in the kit. So first of all, the good news. The vast majority of components are now fitted to the board by the PCB maker. There are a total of 5 SMD parts that are not fitted. Those components are IC27, IC28, IC29, IC12 and IC19. All of these are SOIC8 packages, so are quite easy to hand solder onto the board. I'm not going to get into a big soldering tutorial here, but I'll give you a few tips when the time comes. So typically, a kit is going to arrive to you in this state. You will have the PCB, and you will have a little package like this along with it. So point number one is that the STM32 on the board will be pre-programmed with the latest release firmware at the time that your kit is built up and shipped out. Unless I'm mistaken, as of today, that is version 1.10. So, has anything changed on this PCB? So from a hardware design point of view, the answer to that is no. The circuit design as it pertains to this board is the very same today as it was at the time, that I made the last batch of videos about this. There, however, was a problem that started to develop late last year, and that was that the Wi-Fi modules that I was traditionally supplying, which fit into this header here on the PCB, became exceedingly unreliable to the point that a straight 50% of them simply wouldn't work out of the box. So if I bought 10, at best I would be able to ship 5 of them. And of that 5, chances are 3 of those, when they would get to the end user, would have some sort of a problem. So, did some investigation and came up with an alternative Wi-Fi module. And that is this little guy here. It is known, I believe, as the WeMOS D1 Mini. So that is this little board here. Now there's variants of this, but they're all pretty much the same kind of a board. I must apologize. This is actually one that I got for a test. It has an external antenna, so let me instead show you the one that you'll actually get for the minute. Sorry about that. Easily known I don't script my videos. So there's a little bit of writing on this that might be useful. I'll try and show you that there. There we go. So, all right, this is the module that you will receive with your kit as of, again, just with the caveat that this is as of today. And this module here fits into a header here that I designed onto the PCB. Now that there then, this little guy comes with all the, I'll spill them out here just so you can see them, comes with all the sockets and the necessary bits that you may need. So typically what you're going to do is you're going to solder the female socket into the board, and we'll solder the male part into the we'll solder the male part into the module. So just for demonstration purposes today, so that I'm not boring you to death with my poor quality soldering, I'll just try and sit that on there for you. There's one. Oops, there's not one, there's one. And there's two. So that module will typically solder in like this with the little PCB antenna facing towards the top of the board. However, if you still wish to use the old Olimex module, maybe you have one from a different project, that is still here. So the only layout change to this PCB that has occurred in its entire lifetime has been to add in this header here, which is just 2 rows of pins for this little WeMOS D1 Mini. So there had been some there'd been some people saying that there had been hardware changes. No, there have not been any hardware changes. The circuit is the very same. If you go on the GitHub, you will see that. And the only addition was these pins here for the WeMOS module. And I have to say, this module I've been running now in, again, my cars, kits that I ship to customers, and some boards that I use here for testing and development, and it is just rock steady. It just does not seem to suffer from the problems that were plaguing the other Olimex module later last year. So, now that we've that out of the way. All right, so what devices do we fit to these 5 locations here that we previously specified? Now again, as of the time of making the video, when you get your kit, those parts will be in the little little bag here, and they will consist of, you will have one of these devices, which is an NCV8461. Let me, hopefully you'll be able to see that. So there's part numbers and all kinds of things there. And you can match that part number on here to the bill of materials if you so wish. But the NCV8461 goes into position IC12 with the dot located, with the pin 1 dot located as per the PCB silkscreen. The second part that you will receive is the FAN 3122 TMX, which is this part here. Again, there's part numbers and so forth there. And that component goes into positions IC27, IC28 and IC29 with the dot located for pin 1. The final component, I don't have a bag for it at the minute. It's this guy here, which is an NCV 7356 single wire CAN transceiver, and it goes into position IC19, again with the dot located for pin 1. So obviously then you've got to do things like fit your Wi-Fi module, fit your connection header and so forth. And when you have done that, your VCU should look something like this one that I've prepared earlier. So there we go. So we'll see the completed VCU with the Wi-Fi module, components fitted here, 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 and here, and PCB header fitted and secured into its enclosure. So there's our pins and so on. So that is how your VCU should basically look when it is fully assembled. So I know the question is going to be asked just about soldering these parts, and I give two pieces of advice. The first is, if you feel you can't solder them, find somebody who can. My advice for that, if you don't know somebody, is to look around in your locale for repair shops for the likes of mobile phones, laptop computers and so forth, and just bring them the board, the components and a printout of the bill of materials from GitHub, which will basically tell them what components go into the 5 missing slots. If you do decide to solder them yourselves, and you know I do this on a quite regular basis, I'll give you a few quick tips. First is, flux is your friend. This is the flux that I use now. I get it from AliExpress. It's quite cheap, but it works extremely well. And your mission is basically get as much of it on here as you can, and then use the biggest tip on your soldering iron, preferably a chisel shaped tip like that one. Get some solder on it. Get yourself a little tweezers. Orient the component and then slap the thing on there and tack it down, and the flux will ensure that you don't blob solder all over the pins and so forth. So as I said, I'm not going to get into a big soldering tutorial on that, but I can typically do that with the naked eye, or if not, I just got this cheap kind of an illuminated head mounted magnifier type of a thing from our favorite rainforest website. So as I say, there's 2 options. Well, there's 3 options if you want one of these. So ranging from the cheapest to the most expensive. The cheapest will be to get yourself the design files, and you can do that by subscribing for 1 month to the €10 option on my Patreon. And you can then download those files and get yourself some boards made, and go ahead, program it. All you need is one of these little ST-Link programmers. Program the board, get yourself a Wi-Fi module, get yourself the missing parts, and build up as normal. The next most expensive part is you buy the kit from me, which, as we say, consists of the board, programmed, Wi-Fi module programmed, and your 5 SMD parts that need to be fitted. Or if you're feeling adventurous, the most expensive option is to buy the fully built option from me, which again will give you something like this, and I include the header and the pins for your wiring harness. So, right, that's it for part 1, I guess, where we just wanted to update the situation just on the hardware. So I'm going to get into part 2 now. I'm going to go ahead and make a list of some of those comments that were on the forum, and we'll take them one by one and run through them both here at the desk and then outside in our 2 vehicles. Okay folks, so I've gone through not only that thread on the forum but the entire VCU section on there as well. I'm trying to get a rough idea here of some of this some of these things that are being said and that we want to clear up any misunderstandings on. I'm not trying to say anyone's wrong, I'm not trying to say anyone's right, I'm just saying that there's some information being bandied about there that's just incorrect, and I want to at the very least help to clear up any misunderstandings that there may be. So the ones I've marked in red here I'm going to deal with out in the cars because I'll be able to basically demonstrate it. So those 4 items are that we have these mysterious torque cuts. There is no current limit. There is a hard cut RPM limit, which is, I better just put useless on there because that was said. And the last one is that there is no way to control any of the heater, so the cabin heater modules that are currently in the firmware. Indeed there is, and I will demonstrate that in the E46 for you. So let me just go E46 for that one because I have the what's the name of it? The Ampere heater in the E46, the hard cut RPM limit I'll do in the E39 and the E46. The no current limit we can do in both again, E39, E46, and obviously the torque cuts relate, to the GS450H, so I'll be dealing with that one in the E39. So unfortunately, there's a few here that we need to deal with on the bench first of all. So the first one is, I'll just go through the 3, is it 4? Oh, sorry, there's 4, yeah, there's 4 here that we'll deal with just on the bench, and then we'll go into the car and we'll deal with the other 4, with the other 4 here. So basically the 4 that we have here is that there is no critical mass of users to promote development work, and that feeds into the next one, that there is no or very little ongoing development work on the VCU, be it on the hardware or software, I suppose. So it's not specified, but I assume it's really meant as being software. And then there's 2 other ones here, that the VCU is always on, so it's always using 12 volt power, and that there is no regen available for any of the controlled motors. So let's go, we'll do it 1, 2, 3 and 4 of those. We'll do 1 and 2 kind of together as I can kind of get those into one. So no critical mass of users and no ongoing development work. Now I know I'm just using these generalizations. I'm sure it's, it's probably not meant in certain ways, but by the same token, let's just clear this straight away. So I would say conservatively, I can look up my statistics on the website, but very conservatively, there's anywhere from between 200 and 300 of these VCUs now out there. Now, admittedly, people don't always give me feedback when they get their projects working. They don't always report anywhere, either on the forum or any place else, when they get projects working. People can change their plans, VCU might never get used, etc., etc. But let's take the lower number of 200 and let's cut that straight in half. So there is somewhere in the region of 100 at a very, very conservative estimate VCUs out there and doing something with their parent vehicles. Now, This project originally spawned, if my memory is in any way accurate, which it may not be, in either in late 2019 or early 2020. I genuinely forget. So there has been an awful lot, and continues to be an awful lot, of work done on it. However, I guess picture paints 1,000 words. So let's take a look on the computer here. Okay, so we're on the GitHub web page here for the VCU. So I'll just click on that for you, so you can see that's the kind of that's the page that most people would be familiar with. But what we can do, we can go to the Insights tab here. We can click on Pulse here on the left. Nothing happens. I am probably going in the wrong one of these again. Where is it? It's not in commits, but this is just this is just some oh, what's the name of it? This is no, this is not going well at all. Okay, so we're on Insights and Contributors, and the date range that we have here is December 13, 2020 to February 1, 2023, which is today. And if we have a look at this graph here, and I'll try and bring it into focus for you. So this is the frequency of activity on the software side. And you'll see that there is indeed a quiet period here where I was in the throes of moving house. I did a lot of work here towards the end of 2021. This would have been primarily around the CCS fast charging with the BMW Lim. I then ended up not really doing much. There were some contributions by others around here. Didn't do a whole lot. Then around around autumn last year, I started getting busy again, and you can see there, just literally coming into 2023, there's quite a lot of activity. And we can see here, if we scroll up here, we'll see the contributors, which is, you know, always amazing for me to see the people that are willing to assist. So we've got myself, Johannes, Dave, Matt, and various other folks in there that have been good enough to give of their time. So let's pop back just to the main page here, and we will see that Johannes has been doing a lot of work since he has exiled himself in Sweden. And I'm literally just getting to a point now that I'll be able to test some of the things that he has been doing. So if we look here, there's last month, that basically sources have been changed. So this is the source directory that was changed last month, and the include directory here was changed last month. You'll see here the hardware directory was only without a missing component. That was the last change there, was just to update the BOM. That was 5 months ago. So let's go over here to the releases tab. Click on that. And we see that the latest release firmware for the VCU was on November 28, 2022. So again, at the time of making this video is only about, it's not even 2 months ago, it's about 5-6 weeks ago. And you'll see here that all of the things that were fixed in that release are listed. So you can see what changed between the various things here. There's descriptions of changes that were made. So if you want to know what's been changed in there, by all means do so. This one here on September the 10th, 2022 was when I did a major bug fix release when there had been a big kind of a disruption in the software. So as of again, the time of making this video, the latest version is 1.10a, and that's what's running in the two vehicles that we have outside. Okay, so I would hope that seeing the kind of visualization there on GitHub will kind of help people to see that, yeah, there is a lot of work being done, and certainly a lot of the reverse engineering work that I'm doing here on things like the Volkswagen chargers, heaters, inverters, any of these kind of things that I'm working on, even the Model 3 stuff, that's all going to get integrated into the VCU, and it'll be freely available. So there is no shortage of ongoing work being done on the VCU, not just by me, but by other people that are freely giving of their time to enhance the project. So next one, point number 3. Why is the VCU always on? Well, it's a little bit of a misnomer. It would be more correct to say that the VCU is always active. It's always powered up from the 12-volt systems within the vehicle. Few reasons for that. The primary one is that the VCU has within its software a real-time clock. And the real-time clock is there in order to enable timed charging. And it's something that I use quite a bit because I have nitrate electricity here. So I'll typically set my cars up to commence charging, you know, at some ungodly hour like 3 or 4 a.m. Using the timer functions in the VCU. There would be other ways to do that. There can get into all manner of things like wake-ups and low power modes and other kind of external clocks that wake the main CPU and all this kind of thing. Well, yes, there is a current draw from the VCU when it is powered from 12 volts that would be much higher than you would get from a typical automotive system. Okay, so a typical engine ECU or gearbox controller or these kind of things. Do I have any plans to update that? At the minute, no, honestly. I find it easier to keep things simple, and particularly with a piece of equipment as important as a VCU. The more simple that it is in not only its design but its use case, the less likely there is to be any kind of weird problem that I don't catch here and that ends up causing problems for somebody else. Let's say, this is a theoretical, let's say we had some kind of a wake-up system in there, and let's say that wake-up system went a bit gaga because maybe it's freezing cold outside or a little bit of moisture got in, and instead of waking the VCU to run a timed charging event, it decides to wake the VCU, fire up the high voltage system, fire up the drivetrain and apply full throttle. That would not be good. So simple things like this is where I tend to be at. Now, I know I'm going to have people screaming at the thing, but Damien, it runs my battery flat after 5 minutes. What am I going to do? There are these things called 12-volt battery switches, folks. Okay? I know it's not what you want to hear, but it's what I do, and I'll show them to you if you so wish. So, lastly, and it kind of ties into what I just said, why is there no regen in the current VCU firmware? Okay, so the current VCU firmware does have the regenerative braking disabled in it. It is something that I will be looking at. I can't say when, but it is not as trivial as some people would make out. Like, okay, it's about like 15, 20 lines of code in there. So why don't I just put it in, and get on with it. Okay, well, there's two reasons for that. The first reason is the ZombieVerter VCU is designed to control a wide array of drivetrains. Just for the sake of what we're doing here, I have a Nissan Leaf Gen 1 in the E46, GS450H in the E39. And both of those drivetrains, excuse me just a second. Sorry about that, folks, just had a courier delivery there. So, oh yes, regen. So, we're saying, why do we not have regen in there? So, as I was saying, the VCU is designed to control quite a few different drivetrains. And each of those is capable of regenerative braking, which is a fancy way for saying we just apply negative torque. So if we're moving forward, we start telling the motor we want to go backwards, and it slows the vehicle down. Simple as. Those drivetrains will have different characteristics. So writing a single regen routine that can control all of them in a really neat way is a little bit of a challenge, but it can be done. I did some experiments about 2 years ago now with the Gen 2 or Gen 3, possibly Gen 2, 110 kilowatt Nissan Leaf drivetrain on the bench. We had quite good results with that. I didn't really release that. I tested it in the E46 at the time, and I did not like it. So there is a little bit of a challenge there in writing a routine that'll control everything nicely, but we can do it. So let's say I could just wave a magic screwdriver and have that routine available to me now that I could put into the code. So I would still be quite reluctant to release that for some time until I had personally put quite a few miles on it. And the reason for that is that when we enable regenerative braking in a VCU, we are giving the computer, the little microcontroller on the board, the ability to control torque independently of the driver. So what I mean by that is, just let's say, okay, so we're driving along at say 50 miles per hour. I take my foot fully off the pedal, so I'm not pressing pedals at all. I have throttle pedal regen enabled. The microcontroller now has to look at things like the motor RPM. It's got to potentially even look at things like vehicle speed, and then decide to apply throttle. It's now controlling throttle because it's got to apply negative torque. So we're traveling forward. We tell the motor that we want to apply a certain amount of torque that would, if we were stationary, it would cause the car to start moving backwards. And when your regen goes a little bit crazy, that's exactly what can happen. And that takes quite a bit of working out across a lot of different drivetrains. And I would not feel comfortable releasing software that didn't have that absolutely beaten out in as many ways that I can possibly find. Not just on the bench, but in the cars, not just one car or two cars, but it would have to encompass all of the drivetrain options that I would have in the VCU. So the choice would be that we could have a very limited number of drivetrains that have regen tested out, or we could have a vast array of drivetrains, or well, 5 or 6, okay, at the time of making this, that do not have regen. So you say, okay, well, sure, just make 2 versions of software available then. Make a version available that has regen for 1 or 2 drivetrains, but no regen for other ones. Could do that. The danger is then someone's going to come along and they're going to say, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I see what's going on here. Oh yeah, copy, paste, copy, paste. Oh yeah, change that variable there. Oh yeah, copy that in there. Oh yeah, delete. Oh yeah. Compile. Compiles, load it, drive it. No. I'm not going to do that, folks. So regen for the VCU is something I'm aware of that's not there. I know it's something that people like, something that people want, but it's not something that I'm in a position to just wave the magic screwdriver and give you immediately, because that needs to be safe. Okay, it really is that simple. I'm not the person, you know, I'm not the one of these kind of safety patrol type people, but there has to be a point that when I take a car out there and I get into traffic and I come to a traffic light or a pedestrian crossing or something like that, I need to know that, you know, it's 99.999% that the car is going to do what I tell it to do. It's not going to decide to do something weird because idiot here defines a signed variable as an unsigned variable or something stupid like that. So I hope that explains better as to why we don't have that in there. It's not just because I don't like regen, feck that, you know, no interest in it. Not the case. I'll finish up on the regen thing by just saying this. It's not the panacea that some people believe it to be. If you're interested in the benefits or the not benefits of regen, I'd very strongly recommend going back into the old back catalogue of EVTV videos, and Jack did some very detailed testing on that back in the day. And you might actually be surprised about some of the discoveries that they made. So those are our 4 things here that I'm going to talk about just sitting down. The next few now we are going to get involved with in the vehicles, and I'll start with the heater controls in the E46. So how do we control the heater modules? Okay folks, welcome to the Grey Goose, our E46 Touring, and this is also my daily driver. And in here we've our Nissan Leaf Gen 1 drivetrain. So got a laptop here, and we're going to go ahead and see if we can connect to E46 VCU, and we're going to open a web browser. Oh, for Pete's sake. Anyone knows how to get rid of that keyring thing? It would be much appreciated, as I cannot make it go away. So let me get rid of some of these silly websites. Silly websites. YouTube can poo off. Now, 192, there we go. Okay. So, open a web browser, or 192.168.4.1. It's our usual open inverter system. So, we scroll down our parameters. We'll see that we have a Leaf Gen 1 in a BMW E46. So that's what we have here. The minute the car is turned off, if we come down here, we're going to see, where's he on? Heater module. We're going to see our heater is Ampera. Our control is disable. And our heater power I've set to about 3.2 kilowatts. So, the minute the car is turned off, should be here, we've got up mode off. I'm going to start the car. I'm not going to start the car. Here we go. Alright, crank that goose. Alright, goose cranked up. Goose is currently cranked up. So we refresh our web interface. There we go, up mode run. So, heater controls in the goose, we're currently just set to 17 degrees. It's not that cold, it's about 8 degrees outside at the minute. So let's just say we decide we want some heat. Well, want some heat, it's very simple. Go into our web interface, heater control, disable to enable. And our heater will now start to draw power and start to provide some hot air for us. Oops, excuse me, wrong again. And if we go down here to our power, Let's see, when we last looked at it, it was at just 0.75 kilowatts, just for the DC-DC converter. If I refresh that now, we're at about 2.8 kilowatts, because our heater is on and drawing power from our 12-volt systems. Oh, that's no good, Damien, I hear you say. So you have to bring a laptop around with you if you want to heat up the car. Ha 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 ha. No. Most of the time, I use my phone to turn it on and off when I want to. And if you wish, you can just leave it in enable. If you leave it in enable, then when you start the car up and we go into run mode, the heater will turn on. Oh, that's no good, Damien. Sure, it'll just keep going full power and burn itself out. No. Let's go back to the computer. So folks, we're on our spot values here. You'll see there's one called heat rec or heat request. And heat request is currently on. Why is heat request on? Heat request is on because our heating and ventilation system in the car would like some hot water, because we've got it set to a higher temperature than is currently in the cabin. So what happens is, once our temperature reaches the set point here, our BMW heater controller here will turn off the input, which would be, or the output I should say, that would normally be used to close the heating coolant valves that let hot water in from the engine block. Oh, it's getting warm, by the way. So this is used as a digital input on one of the digital input pins on our VCU. And if we turn the heater off, guess what happens, folks? The heat request goes off and the heater turns off. So there you have it. That's how the Ampere heater works here in our E46. Oh, and of course, if we set the temperature higher, etc., it will put the heater back on. If we turn the temperature down lower, it'll turn the heater off. And if we turn the blower off, etc., it'll turn the heater off. So that's how we do that little bit of vehicle integration here. Okay, folks, this is really, it's turned into a bit of a longer day than I had anticipated, for sure. We're back in the E46 Touring. Firstly, though, my apologies. It turned out that you were right and I was wrong. The current limit did not work. It had worked up to version 1.10, because I went back and I actually tested it. But as of 1.10, it was broken again, because in 1.10, we had fixed a major problem with the throttle processing subroutine. And in doing so had meant that the current limit no longer worked. The good news is it now does again. So if you go back to GitHub releases, which we were discussing earlier, instead of 1.10, you are now going to find 1.11. And that has the current limit fixed. I'm going to prove to you that the current limit is fixed both in the E46 Touring with our Nissan Leaf Gen 1 and a manual gearbox, and then we'll jump in the E39 with the GS450H, and we'll go through a few more of the things that we had found out, we had listed this morning. So without further ado, let's get to the current limit. Okay, so our current limit operates on the parameter IDC max, parameter number 24. We have it set here to 500 amps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up the car and then we are going to test our current limit. So I'm going to do this all in one take, so you're going to get some horrible, absolutely horrible footage here. Just going to reverse back a bit because we need to give ourselves a bit of run-up space here, and I don't mind spinning the wheels into the wood pile over here. I don't want to go spinning them into the house or into the shed, or I might throw up a stone and break something. So, all right, handbrake on. So, 500 amps. Let's take that down a peg. Let's try 5 amps. It's engaged 6th gear, handbrake on, and full throttle. Oh no, we're not going anywhere. Why are we not going anywhere? What could possibly be going on? Let's have a look. Spot values, refresh. And oh no, look at this. Our DC current is limited for some reason. Let's set the throttle off. Let's floor it again. Oh, get a little jump. No, still nothing happening. That's strange. What could be causing this weird malfunction? It must be Damien's loser software. Let's get on the forum and rip him a new one. But instead, let's try changing our current limit to, I don't know, let's try a whopping 7 amps. That's got to break something loose. So let's get down here. There's our IDC, and wait for it, and floor it. No, we're still only seeing about 5 amps. This is weird. All right, let's go for broke. Parameters. Let's go for that IDC max. Let's try a more fun pack 25 amps. Ready for action? Because this is going to be, yeah, this will definitely overpower the handbrake now. All right, so why is it always raining when I want to film stuff? Okay, and this is full throttle. Oh, we're overpowering the handbrake. Oh, come on, handbrake. Oh no, we're oh god. That was 25 amps. Current limit functioning. But that's not going to be good enough, I know. Let's back it up. Let's back it up again. Alright, so let's try 25 amps again. But rather than in 6th gear with the handbrake on. I better put the wipers on. Bloody hell. Okay, let's try 2nd gear, no handbrake, and full throttle. Oh my god. Oh, what's going on? Oh, this is terrible. What could possibly be going on here? Let's back up and try that again. That was super weird. Must be something wrong with the VCU. Let's try 2nd gear again, and we'll give you the tachometer. And full throttle. Things I do for you guys. So, there we have our current limit. Yes, so let's go up a bit. And let's set our current limit to, there we go, IDC max. Oh no, let's not do this. Let's go for 100 amps. That's a much more sensible figure. What could possibly go wrong here? Let's try flooring it in reverse just for kicks. Whoa, whatever that was, some kind of scraping sound. Yeah, well, that seems to be okay. What should we use? What gear should we use? Let's try 3rd. You all love to hear me pronounce that. And full throttle. There we go. So that was 100 amps. 3rd gear. Let's give it the old reverse and floor it again just for fun. There we go. Ripping up my driveway just for you guys. Let's try 6th gear. Full throttle. Bit more sedate. 6th gear is better. So, gonna set myself back to 500 amps, which is my normal for this job, and we'll go again for the old reverse. You know you want me to. Okay. Oh, man, my driveway. Oh yeah. Okay, that was definitely different. Alright, that definitely got some stone chips moving. Now, what gear should we use this time? Second's a good choice. Here we go. Oh God, this is gonna be suck. Full throttle. And that was 500 amps. Current limit works. And yeah, software testing at its finest. So with that said, let's park the Goose and jump in the land yacht and repeat that in the land yacht, just to prove to you that it's not just a fluke. Then we will do some more GS450H specific stuff, so stand by. So I got one question about this current limit testing. I'm going to pay for my driveway, because we got semi-slicks on the back of the land yacht. They're going to make real fun out of that. Oh yeah, the battery's still not gone on fire again. Even though I've left it out in the rain, but hey, I try. Land yacht time. Welcome to the land yacht. I've got the heated seat on. Also got the wipers on because it's still raining. So let's get into position and we'll do some current limit testing. So same procedure as before. 500's the nominal. Let's set it to 5 and go into drive, handbrake off, and full throttle. Oh no, we're not going anywhere. We're kind of little bit of jumpiness. I think something's wrong with the VCU. Let's get on the forum and kick Damien's ass. But before, let's just check the current limit. Oh yeah, 5 amps or so. Weird. No, can't be anything to do with what we're doing. Let's try this again. Let's go for our parameters. What do you think is a more sensible current limit, folks? What do you think is a more sensible current limit? 5 amps seems a bit low. Let's try 10. Okay, so 10 amps. Oops, press enter. 10 amps, in drive, handbrake on, full throttle. Oh, she wants to go. The yacht really does want to go. She's trying to overpower the handbrake. I'm holding the pedal against the stop here for you guys. So there's, oh look at that. There's your 10 amps. I don't know if you're going to see this, but there's my big Wellington boot planted against the floor. All for you. There it is, planted. So, right, let's try a more sensible current limit then. Let's go back to parameters. I don't know, 100 amps probably sounds like a much more sensible figure, really, doesn't it? Let's try 100 amps. Yeah, let's try 100 amps. 100. Too many car parts here. Problem with cars, folks, they always need more parts. I'm going to take handbrake off this time because I don't want to break my friggin' handbrake. And try and give you, I guess, dashboard maybe, and full throttle. Oh boy! Oh, the land yacht likes 100 amps. Yeah. Alright, let's try reverse. Because that's only got MG2 going, so let's do that. Full throttle. Yeah, that's a bit more sedate, alright. MG2 is the kind of, I don't know, it's less enthusiastic of the two motors, I think, personally, anyway. So, let's try something a bit more reasonable, like our 500 amp limit. Just 500 amps, in drive, handbrake off. Yeah, I know I'm going to regret this one, but here we go. Whoa! There's a bit of smoke. The yacht got the tail out that time for us, folks. Oh, she got the tail out big time. Yeah, she likes the 500 amps. So, oh, the things I do for the internet. Let's try reverse and full throttle. Yeah, no much wheel spin there. You know, MG2 is definitely like the cruising motor. Yeah, there we go. And I just know y'all want to see that again. I definitely want to experience it. But the problem is trying to hold the camera and try to control her. So, okay, here goes. And full throttle. Oh! Woo-hoo-hoo! Okay. There's the smoke. There's the smoke. We let the smoke out. So, 500 amp current limit. This is not going to end well. .500 amp current limit. Okay, so after that one, I just realized I had my throttle ramp set to 10% every 10 milliseconds, which means that it would take 100 milliseconds or 0.1 seconds to get to full throttle. We can't have that kind of thing. Let's instead crank this to 100% in 10 milliseconds. That's much better. Now, given our current limit, let's see if we can deal with another one of our things on here, which is torque cuts. Kind of wish it would torque cut on me at this stage. This is not going to end well. Now I might need, I don't know how I'm going to do this, is I kind of need both hands to stop her from spinning out completely on me, but okay, here we go, full throttle. Oh, nearly the elephant. Yeah, that didn't, that didn't cut out. So there you have it, 100% in 10 milliseconds, max throttle slew rate. Okay, torque cuts. That's going to be the one we're going to need to deal with in a minute, but let's go through the rest of them here. No current limit. Well, you were actually right, internet. I was wrong. The current limit had disappeared out of version 1.10. As we said, it's now back in 1.11, which we're now running in our vehicles and is up there or down there on the GitHub page for you. And you can test it, but I don't recommend testing it in your driveway with an E39 and a GS450H because you're going to tear up the driveway. Right. Did the no heater controls in the E46? Hard cut RPM limiter. It's useless apparently. Right, well, let's go test the said hard cut RPM limiter. We'll test it at maximum slew rate on the throttle, of course. So let's go back up and we'll, I think I'm at like 7,000 or 8,000 RPM at the minute. I'm not sure because I've kind of helpful that I've a M5 instrument cluster in here because it goes to 8 grand. I'm going to back up. We'll set it something like 1,000 and we'll see what happens with max slew rate and everything else maxed out, like current limit maxed out, there's nothing else to kind of soften it up. So let's see what it actually does. We'll then be, we'll head out on the road here. I'll do a few, I'll try and tape down the phone or something. I don't know how this is going to work out. But I'll put a phone holder over here. And we'll go for a drive. I'll do a few full throttle accelerations. Unfortunately, the speed limit out here is only 50 miles per hour. So, but I will pull in a couple times, do a few full speed pulls with max slew rate, everything maxed out. And we'll test to see if we get any torque cuts. I'm pretty sure we're not going to, because I don't. we will check our, we'll check the current limit as well out there if you want, I don't mind. And the hard cut RPM limiter. But let's test the hard cut RPM limiter here in the driveway with the E39. Okay, so max slew rate. And we leave our slew rate at 100% and our current limit. And where's he gone? Where's my current limit? My current limit. 500 amps. There he is. Okay. Now, so what we want to do is we want to say rev limiter is currently 8,000 RPM. Well, that's a bit extreme. Let's try 1,000 RPM. That sounds a bit more sensible. So 1,000 RPM. Oh no, it's raining again. 1,000 RPM current limiter. Handbrake off, into drive, and full throttle. Actually, you can go pretty fast with 1,000 RPM. We did get a cut there when the wheels spun a bit, but let's just relax this now because I keep thinking E46, you see, with the manual. So let's take it down to 500 RPM. Might be a bit more sensible for what we're trying to do. Oops. Okay, and no, back into park. Okay, so 500 RPM and enter. Handbrake off, into drive. Here we go again, full throttle. Oh, there we are, we're cruising. There's my RPM limiter. It works. You know, it's not exactly smooth sailing, but it works. Alrighty folks, hope this is going to work out. I think I picked a bad time for the traffic out here. Well, we'll do our best. Alright, let's back up a bit. Alrighty, and into drive. Let's go driving. Hope that phone holder will stay in one place now. That'll be the trick. Alright, so let's go for window down. Okay. I'm going to straighten up, then I'm going to floor it. Full throttle. And there's 50. It's a classic kind of overcomplicated thing that probably looks great in some 3D CAD package on a desk. Not exactly ideal for testing. So let's see if we can do a full throttle pull here and power on. 30, 40, and 50. So that's with max current limit, well, 500 amp current limit, which I think is pretty reasonable for what we're doing. And maximum slew rate on our throttle. RPM limiter is 8,000, we're nowhere near that. Minute at 50, we're doing about 3,400 RPM, and very soon going to be doing less RPM thanks to this guy. But anyway, going to flip around and we'll see if we can do another standing start here. I don't know how else to, I guess, stress the thing or, you know, put more load on it. It's about the best I can do at the minute. I understand that it is tempting at times to think of the VCU as being the source of all of the ills. It can be, you know, as we found today, we can definitely have problems. And as you saw, I ended up thinking the current limit was working fine, and it actually wasn't. So we were able to fix that. And yeah, but you got to look at other factors, folks, as well. It can't be just the current, it can't be just the VCU all the time. Get a little bit of a rolling start here, but power on, full throttle. 30, 40, 50. actually touched the current limit there. So let's see if I can find somewhere up here now to pull in, and we'll crank up the current limit, and we'll see if we can do another pull and see if we can recreate that. It's not an ideal road here outside my house. It's a very kind of a twisty, rural sort of a road. Doesn't really lend itself to testing, but we'll do as much as we can anyway. Let's pull in here, test the old ABS. Ooh, wow, okay. Yeah, a rural road. Okay, in a park. All right, let's grab onto here. So I did get a little bit of a dip in the torque there when we got to just under 50. So let's go up to 600 amps on the current limit. And back into drive, back out here. Try and do just a standing start. I need to kind of synchronize this with the traffic. All right, and full throttle. Little bit of wheel spin, but we're going 20, 30, 40, 50, and we didn't get any flick that time at around 45 to 50. So that was definitely hitting the current limit that time, which proves the current limit works. So, you know, I keep doing this all day, but I have to edit this mess of a video together. So I'm not going to really be doing that. All right. So, folks, let me grab that list again, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. All right, let's grab that. I'm gonna grab my notebook. So, random torque cuts. What can I say? It's not something I've experienced. I know there was one or two people that did. Maybe more, I don't know. I had also been told that disabling the current limit subroutine in the VCU firmware fixed it. Now, what that tells me is that the VCU, which works a hell of a lot quicker than the human brain, or human reaction, I should say, has picked up a current spike and has basically cut the torque as the current limit is supposed to do. So for folks that are experiencing that, I'd recommend doing two things. One would be check all of your connections, grounds, bonding. Absolutely have to. The 450 likes to kick out a lot of noise. So particularly if you're not using the OEM motor cables, that's something to look out for. What I would also recommend doing is do a CAN log of your shunt and go back through it and graph the current output. And if you're seeing like a very transient current spike like that, well then that's going to tell the VCU that you have an overcurrent event, and it's going to want to, guess what, cut the torque. So I can drive around here. I've driven this car probably since doing the Lexus swap in it, something over 500 miles, maybe 500 to 600 miles, something in that vicinity. We'll be putting more miles on the car. I've actually got a bunch of parts here I need to do. I've got a front left hub I got to change on it. There's, you know, lots of just normal car stuff. I'm going to turn off the heater. So that's torque cuts. It's got nothing to do with your battery, or, you know, maybe it's a bad connection on the battery, sure, but other than that, no. Current limit, I think we've been over that. Hard cut RPM limiter, You saw it there. It just works. I mean, if you want, maybe I could do it in the Goose as well. Do we want to do it in the Goose as well? It's just going to do the same thing. And the heater controls, we've done that. And we've done the other issues relating to what I had found on the forum. So, bit of an epic video, folks. This one's going to be long. So, if you've made it this far, then congratulations on retaining your sanity. Me, not so much. So, I'm going to call it a day there. I hope this has been educational in some sense, not only just on the VCU, but kind of thing how I go about the things I do and why I have so many cars with all the different combinations of things in them, because it's all of these things need to be tested. And as was shown today, there was a problem there. I didn't think there was. Got in the car, tested it. It was a genuine problem. Got in amongst the code, got my test bench with the 300H in there. Did some testing, come back out to the cars, tested again, back on the bench, tested again, back in the cars, tested again. Dug around, got our current limit back working again, and took it out on the road, as you just saw. And we did various, testing here and ripped up the driveway. So that's kind of what you got to do. It's kind of what I do. I don't know why, but here we are. All right, that's enough of me rambling. As always, don't forget to unsubscribe, cancel notifications, and give a thumbs down. That helps old PooTube make sure that my videos, horrible as they are, do not get foisted upon any innocent individuals who may be searching for EV conversions. We couldn't have that. That would be bad. Also, whatever you do, don't check the links in the description for Patreon and PayPal, because if you give me more money, I'm just going to end up making more cars like this. And, who wants that? So, there will be links in the description to the Open Inverter Forum, which I strongly recommend checking out. GitHub, which we'll have the GitHub link for the VCU. And anything else that I can find that would be of interest will be in the description. So, until next time, folks. Happy current limit testing.